I would like to introduce you to Tim. Tim is 9 months old, and he's lying in a cot. His mother's gone out for a pint of milk, and she's away for 3 days. Not for the first time. So what does that mean for Tim? It means that he feels hungry. He has cold feet. All he can see is darkness. He can taste milk and vomit. He can smell the contents of his own disintegrated nappy, sour milk, and more vomit. And what he touches is the nappy rash that goes from his knees up to his waist. And what he can hear is a slamming door and shouting, "Shut up, you stupid!" My point being proven. So this cohort of sensory experiences is what constitutes neglect. And let's think for Tim, as he progresses through life, and by the time he's 5, he's been fostered, and he's 5 and he starts school. Then he's 7. How do you think he might be behaving? When he gets to 9, how is his internal world? When he gets to 11, what would you see when you looked at him? When he gets to 13, who's he going to connect to on Facebook? And he gets up to about 15, and one day he's coming home from school, and it's a cold, wet Sydney day, just like last week. And he comes home from school, and he's spent his lunch money on cigarettes. He's lost his bus pass. And he comes through the front door, and the wind catches it and slams shut. And from out the back, Mum calls, "Hi, Tim." And Tim's response is, "Shut up, you friggin' bitch!" Now we can step back and we can see the connection. He has cold feet because he's walked home in the rain. He has hunger. He missed his lunch. He heard a crashing door. He can put his hand to his face, and he feels his acne, which is an echo of the nappy rash. So the words that came from his mouth were the ones that he heard way back then. Now, for Tim, that's one incident of neglect. And I think we can talk about metaphorical shrapnel stored in the body, that cohort of sensory experiences. One piece of emotional shrapnel. And actually, he could be living in a place like this. So there will be more incidences, because Mum didn't just go out on a bender once. She went out more than once. So he had considerable experience of neglect. And neglect doesn't come in isolation. There will be other forms of maltreatment for him, other types of abuse. So it might be that we can represent emotional abuse by a gold star. We can represent physical abuse with a red arrow. We can represent fear, that toxic base emotion with purple circle. And the sexual abuse we represent by a gold diamond, because you are my little special precious thing with whom we have our little secret. And that cohort of maltreatment, neglect, abuse can be represented by this. That cohort, and it's stored in the implicit memory, the memory with no words, non-verbal, implicit, in our sensory database. And that's where it's stored. And frequently, there is a mismatch between what is stored in the body and the saccharine life story that children are told. And we know from the work of Bessel van der Kolk in his great book, The Body Keeps the Score. That's what happens. And there is a use of language. I suspect all of you, like me, have at times said, the house is a bit messy. The house was a bit messy. Yeah? Yes? But I bet it didn't look like that. I bet it didn't look like that. So the words a little bit messy don't mean that. They mean what you, the odd towel on the floor. That's so confusing for children. So I say what we need to do is we need to give them a coherent narrative, and we do it 100% truth-telling in an age-appropriate way. And we do it like a jigsaw. If we bought a jigsaw for a child, it would be maybe 25 pieces when they were 5. Big, chunky pieces, like big, chunky information, like Uncle Fred was naughty. Then when they get a bit older, 9, some larger pieces, and we build up that jigsaw. More detail. Uncle Fred was naughty and sometimes he hurt people. We build it up a bit more so that when they're 14, they're able to know that Uncle Fred was a paedophile. And then when they get into adulthood, they're able to know that Uncle Fred was a paedophile and that there's probably videos of Tim's brothers being abused that are out there on the internet. So we build this story up over time. And by doing that, we enable a reframing for these children so that they're able to look and say, it wasn't my fault. And this avoids false, negative beliefs being developed inside the child. As Judy Delosier, one of my NLP trainers, says, knowledge is only a rumor until it's in the muscle. And we have there the knowledge in the muscle. What these children need is the coherent narrative, the story that matches it. They need head, heart, and gut understanding. And that doesn't come from words, and it doesn't come from saccharine life story books. We need to give these kids empowering reframing to help them remove the different types of shrapnel. And that way we avoid shame. Because for many of these children, their shame is pervasive. From that cot, they must have been bad. If Tim thinks of himself as a bad baby here, how are things going to progress? So what we need is 100% truth-telling in an age-appropriate way. And that way, we future-proof our children. We tell them the stories repeatedly and in depth as they get older. And it's the same story with a different level of detail. So what these children need is a coherent narrative. They need the same story throughout their lives, from when they're little to when they're bigger, from when they're small, so that Tim knows the story. And let's hope he's seen the pictures. He gets the coherent narrative, and it is a consistent story. There are no surprises. Ideally with photographs, because pictures are worth 1,000 words. 100% truth-telling in an age-appropriate way. The story that does not conflict with their sensory, somatic experiences. So it matches and avoids the big challenge of mismatching. They need to know intrinsically that it was not their fault. And they need help and support to reframe the past, understand their lives and the process that they went through. So from there, they can look and they can say, I was not a bad baby. There were adults who failed to protect me for a whole host of reasons. I wasn't a bad baby. I'm an okay person. I've survived. I've demonstrated resilience. I can go through life well. And with that empowerment, how do you think they're going to deal with Uncle Fred getting in contact when they're 13 via Facebook? And what will happen if they don't have that? I'm going to finish with two things. Firstly, an apology. I didn't get my abstract in time, so I've set up the abstract and copy of this presentation on the helenoakwater.com website if you would like to download it. So my apology for that, and there's a lot of other stuff on the Bubble Wrap Children website. So finally, my request to you is that you share 100% truth-telling in an age-appropriate way with children so that the story they are told matches their physical, somatic experience. And that way, we stabilize their life journey. Thank you.